Nidek. I'm on the board of the Student Engineers Council here at Virginia Tech and the LEC chair. So typically we'll hold a in-person LEC conference in the fall, but this year, due to the circumstances, we pivoted to hold this online event series that we hope will be very enriching and enjoyable for you guys throughout the semester. I guess to start off, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Micron. Micron is the sponsor of this event and the entire event series, actually, and it would really not be possible to do this without their support. Yeah, so with that, I want to allow our panelists to go through and introduce themselves if they would like. So we'll just go in the order at the bottom of the screen. So Janet, would you like to lead us off with a quick introduction?
Absolutely. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our new reality. So I'm Janet Bastel, and I'm a campus relations manager with Lockheed Martin, and I'm delighted to be joining you via Zoom this evening.
Sure. Hey, everyone. Andrew Merowitz. I graduated from Tech in 2012, computer engineering. I've been up in New York City. You might have recognized me. I was on campus a bunch with, used to work at Bloomberg for a while, and then hopped over to Amazon recently, and excited to be here and chat with you guys and answer any questions you have.
Hi, everybody. Jess Fulmer. I'm with Withers Ravenel. I'm the Chief People Officer there, based in North Carolina. I went to school at UNC Chapel Hill. Do not hold that against me. And happy to be with all of you this evening.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kristen Chase. I'm a recruiter within Deloitte Government and Public Services. So we recruit within consulting and advisory and a number of things on campus, but graduated from Tech in 2015. So wish I could be back on campus, but this will have to do.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you all for joining us. I now want to turn things over to my colleague, Anthony Mistichelli, who is also on the board of the Student Engineers Council and will be moderating tonight's panel. And then William, if you could advance the slide.
Hi all, thanks Ryan. I'm Anthony, I'm a junior in aerospace and ocean engineering, and I'm gonna help moderate for today's panel. So to start us off with the first question, and if we can keep the order that we did the introductions with, I feel like that'd be the smoothest in this weird environment for sure. So the first question is, what does a virtual recruitment for your company look like? So are you guys coming to the virtual career fairs, doing your own days, having different events, having people apply online? What is your company's strategy to adjusting recruitment to the virtual atmosphere? And what have you tried to keep as normal as possible? And what is a new idea that was brought up this year?
So I guess I'll go ahead and start. So for Lockheed Martin we are doing a variety of different activities. And starting tomorrow, we will be hosting a workshop tomorrow, which is going to lead right into our Lockheed Martin Day that is going to be hosted virtually on September the 10th. Many of you took the opportunity to attend that event last year while we were over at the Inn. And thank you very much. And now we're just pivoting and we're giving it a whole new spin to activities that will happen both within Zoom and Brazen. Those are the platforms that we'll be focusing all of our activities are, but throughout we will be doing a variety of opportunities that are hosted just by Lockheed Martin. We also will participate in some career fairs, but to be honest with you, the only fall career fair for Virginia Tech that we're going to participate in is the computer science career fair. And then again, just participating in opportunities like this where I'm invited by different student groups.
Cool. Yeah, so we're trying to do, I guess like the question says, something's trying to do normal, like attending the virtual career fairs, still hosting interviews the week after, although obviously will be virtual. We've actually had pretty good success with the virtual interviews. It allows us to actually do more interviews. We don't have to bring everyone to campus. It's easier to spread them out across the country. And there's some events that we've found that are actually easier. More people can attend when they're virtual. We can have multiple schools on at the same time. We can record them. People can watch them afterwards. So While there's obviously we all wish we could be on campus, there are some advantages as far as distributing things nationally more easily and making things more available as recordings, not have to attend them live, because I know especially the Career Fair week, there's tons and tons of things going on. It's not possible for you to attend all the events you'd like to be at. So a combination of trying to attend some of the events through the Virginia Tech, and then also hosting some of our own virtual events and trying to distribute them, make them more readily available, and just obviously with everyone else trying to be flexible too. Like who knows what the next couple of weeks and months entail, and we'll kind of take the information as it comes and do the best that we all can to give all of the students and the recruiters and engineers as productive and effective of a semester as we can.
Yeah, just echoing what Janet and Andrew said, we are attending multiple career fairs and looking for various opportunities. We are a civil engineering firm. We're multidisciplinary, but a lot of times the folks that come to us from Virginia Tech are from the civil engineering department. We are offering internships and, hiring people after they graduate as well. And what we're finding is that it's great to be able to speak with, do speaking engagements in classrooms is really how we're trying to push in and get to know students a little bit better. Also offering resume review for students, and that doesn't have to be civil engineering students. We're offering that as well. So just, everything they were doing, and then those are the two things I think to add.
Yep, and I think I'm just going to echo everything. We are attending most of the career fairs, as well as having our own Deloitte Expo event. Usually we do this in person, so just doing the same thing, only via Brazen platform. So it's a way that you can learn about all of our different businesses, whether it be consulting, risk and financial advisory, audit and tax might not be as relevant, but with this group, but in general, we have all of those different groups during our Deloitte Expo. So if you don't see us at a career fair, definitely come to Expo, and that will be promoted on Handshake along with our positions and interview details. So generally doing virtual interviews as well. And then on top of classroom presentations, working with organizations on campus to make sure that we get all over campus and see you all and, get our information out.
Cool, thank you. There seems like a lot of opportunities this semester, which is good to hear for sure. So for our next question, which we could start with Jess on this one and go in the same order. Looking past the typical things you see on a resume, like GPA, job experience, technical skills, what have you, what do you feel are the top attributes that a student could bring to you at when they talk to you at a career fair or anything off the resume that you look for in a potential candidate?
I love this question. This is great. The first thing that comes to mind is honestly just grit. I know that's a really weird word to throw out there, but we like to think about people who, have maybe gone through some type of struggle or challenges in their life, and people who can kind of push through those and find solutions. I think we're all doing that right now when we're dealing with this virtual world and all the changes we've dealt with during COVID, and people who can kind of be nimble and adjust to scenarios. That's the type of employee and kind of student that we're looking for. We did go ahead with our internships this summer, and we got such great feedback. Even though they were 100% virtual, we really tried to make that experience meaningful for our interns, and we were successful with that. So that's the first thing that comes to mind.
I'll also add to that. So I think especially when it comes to candidates, we really want to know also what you're passionate about. So what are you involved on campus? What are the things that you're doing in your free time that relate to the career that you want to pursue in the future? So what trainings and certifications are you taking on the side? What leadership roles you have on campus? What orgs are you involved in? But really just want to learn about, what makes you a well-rounded individual, and what are you passionate, and where are you making an impact on campus or just in your daily life. So definitely something that we look for on top of, job experience and GPA and whatnot.
Yeah, One more thing I think is like your soft skills make a huge difference. And the fact of the matter in the job market today is you're always working in a team, you're working with other people, you're communicating your ideas, and you can have the best ideas in the world, but if you can't convince the other people around you that they're a good idea and they're worth time to be invested in trying them out or turning it into like a real project, you're gonna struggle. So when we talk to people, it's not just about what's on the piece of paper, but it's also a lot about how you communicate to us in one sentence. Kind of quickly understand what your internship was about last summer, what your project was about, or what your favorite class you've taken was, because that's a critical skill when it comes to actually turning like the technical skills into like on the job I guess like output and what you're able to contribute.
I'm just going to
Cool.
expand a little bit on that communication piece. Is it's important that you practice. And by practicing, just like, you know, the majority of us, I'm assuming, probably wouldn't go out and run a marathon tomorrow. But what you want to do is, if you're going to run a marathon, you have to practice and prepare. So do those same things so that when you get in front of an individual, that you're able to articulate very quickly what it is that you want to say.
Thank you. So this is a little bit of a twist, and this is the idea of that a lot of companies are also changing to pushing way more towards applying online. And so I was hoping you guys could help our students understand better the process and overview of what happens when you apply online, and any tips and tricks you might have to getting past and further the blind application process.
Yeah, I can start. There's no like magic answer like, oh, if you do this, put this word at the bottom of your resume and it'll pass the filters. There's like a couple. I mean, I think it's making it like short and sweet. Like there's no need to. Nobody's reading paragraph and paragraph and paragraph. Like we have hundreds and hundreds of resumes to go through. So short and sweet. Using like visual cues helps a lot. Like put things in bold that you want to really stand out, to jump out to the attention. Put the most important things at the top. Usually like ordering things like chronologically, or if you had a recent internship you're really proud of or a recent project, put that at the top. But I don't think there's like one like trick that like we keep as a secret from anybody. It's mostly just keep in mind we're reading through hundreds of resumes, so whatever you can do to make your the details that you want us to know right away stand out, and keep things succinct and not like super wordy, helps us just kind of make sure that we're getting a good picture of you when we're reading through the resumes.
One thing that I think is definitely key is definitely attend events while you can. I think we, in general, definitely see the candidates who are putting an emphasis on getting to know us and learning more about the firm in general. So come to events when you can, and, you know, definitely do follow up once you leave those events. I mean, there's so many different virtual platforms that you can connect. I know Deloitte has a one-on-one program where you can sign up to potentially talk to candidates or practitioners one-on-one. Also, connecting on LinkedIn is huge in this virtual space. And just for recruiting tips and tricks, you know, a lot of different companies have their career sites to learn more about the different areas within the firm. So studying up and learning more when you do come to events, as well as Deloitte has a recruiting tip, profile page as well. So just little things that you can like do to, you know, make yourself stand out.
You know, when you're taking a look at what the job is and you're taking a look at your resume, realizing, as Andrew said, we're reviewing hundreds and hundreds of resumes, is help us to be able to easily identify that you have the skills. So if you see that I'm looking for a particular skill, and I'll just use MATLAB, you know, or C++, if you know that you have that skill, but it's kind of buried down, highlight it, bring it to the top, because it's those types of skills that a organization posts in their job description of these are required skills, that those are things that we're looking at very quickly. Then we're looking for what are the next things. Do we have additional skills that we are interested in? And stay away from fancy. Is just give us the information. There's a lot of standard standardized processes for putting your resume together, and really is, we find those very easy to use. Bullet points, not paragraphs.
Thank you. Jess, did you have anything to add on that one, or just echoing along?
Yes.
Perfect. Good advice. I like to see it. So back to, the career first style of an event. What would you say, and this is more towards the freshman and sophomore who doesn't have much experience and they're trying to fine tune their process as they practice, what would you say is a large mistake you see students make when they come and talk to recruiters?
One thing that I just wanted to add, even before coming to the event, I think one of the biggest mistakes is not going to events or career fairs. So even if you are more junior, it's always just good to go to events to be able to get that experience and, creating more of those soft skills by speaking to different practitioners and learning more about firms. So always, no matter what level, like grade level you are, definitely go to events. But I would always focus also on, preparing yourself, getting prepared by looking at the career site of the company that you're speaking to and really thinking about where you fit within that firm. And I think that there's another question later about elevator pitch, but always good to have a couple of sentences to talk about and start the conversation.
Yeah, I think echoing one thing is just know something about the company you're going to talk to. There's a lot of, it happens more often than people expect. Is people come to the career fair and they'll just hand out their resume to anyone that'll take it, and then you get to, and then somebody follows up and say, oh, why are you interested in working for us? It's like, oh, I don't know. Like I saw your booth at the career fair and I figured I needed a job this summer, so I'd give you your resume. Like we want people who want to work with us. There's tens of thousands of companies that hire, and we want people who want to work with us, and you don't need to know everything. You don't need to be an expert in the company. Go to their Wikipedia page, go to their homepage, read a little bit about them, at least the space they're in, the types of customers they work with, problems they're solving. So if they do ask you like, hey, why are you interested? Well, first you can make sure you are interested in them. And then if they ask why are you interested in them, you're able to kind of explain like even just a high level kind of what you gained out of either Wikipedia or their website and how it kind of aligned with your interest and what you're looking for.
I agree with that, Andrew, and would also add to be able to articulate what you are interested in, what you're passionate about. I've had conversations with students at career fairs where they're sort of like, I'm willing to do anything, and that doesn't really help you stand out from the other students that are coming to speak with recruiters. So have a sense of what you enjoy and be able to talk about those things or some interests that you may have, things that you want to, at least things that you want to explore. That's helpful information.
Yes. So thank you guys for those. Those were pretty great. So let's say, and this is also more of a younger classman question. Let's say I'm a sophomore or junior and I have a pretty empty resume. I haven't been able to get an internship in the past, and I'm trying to get that junior year internship that everyone looks to as the big one, or my full-time offer. What kinds of steps do you think I should take to fill my resume or, navigate against an empty resume?
Yeah, sure. I'll start. So there's one thing is you can always do personal projects. Like nobody has to hire you to go work on a project on your own for a summer. Different majors, obviously, different engineering degrees have different types of things. But I was software, so go build an app, build a website, take an open source code and make contributions to it, and put a link to your GitHub account. You don't need an internship you don't need to have like a formal defined internship on your resume to stand out as like an excellent candidate. And people that are self-taught and took that motivation, said, hey, I didn't get an internship after my sophomore year, but I went and spent the summer learning this and doing this project, and here you can go see my code here. Like that initiative is just as important, if not more important than an internship. And there's plenty of opportunities for you to explore and show your skills and without having a formal internship.
Absolutely. To kind of expand on that is, I'm sure that there are some of you that are joining us tonight that unfortunately did have your internships rescinded this summer. Like Jess, we at Lockheed Martin were able to bring all of our interns on. Some of them did go to facilities, but the majority of them were remote. But it's the big question this year is, okay, so your internship was rescinded or you didn't have an internship, but to Andrew's point is, what did you do? You know, I've talked to some people that honestly, it's like, well, I've sat in my parents' pool all summer long. A young man that I talked last week that is, you know, creating apps, but then that individual also is working with some high school students to teach them about web development and app development. So that person, you know, took the lemons and made lemonades, and that's the one that we're going to say, wow, that's the person that I want to talk to a little bit more. So same thing in going forward is, how do you fill that void and how do you get that skill outside of just the job environment?
It's never too late to start. If you didn't do something awesome all summer, you have plenty of time this semester where you can't go spend Saturdays at Lane Stadium. You can work on engineering projects to brush up on your resume. So it's never too late to start. If you're feeling like, oh man, I didn't do that, or oh, I don't have any of those things that they're talking about, never too late to start.
And I would also add on, there's so many different avenues you can even get experience on campus. So definitely looking at your classes and maybe projects that you've worked on, how are you working with others there? And I think also there's so many different organizations on campus where you can get involved, be a part, maybe have a leadership role, and that's definitely really great experience as well.
That's a great example. That I did undergrad research because at my junior year, I didn't have a great internship after my sophomore year, but I did undergrad research my junior year. And when I went and talked to recruiters, that was one of the main things our conversations focused on. It was just something a little more open-ended to have a conversation on than like the same classes that every one of my peers was taking and things like that.
That's great. I would just add everything that has already been said, but also, you know, think about shadowing experiences. If you can't get a full internship, because those are often hard, you know, asking different companies for an opportunity to shadow for a day or two. Those are the type of things you can also list on your resume. My other thought was, you know, maybe reach out to an upperclassman who has had an internship, talk to them about what they enjoyed, if they like the companies they worked with, and then see if they might be willing to recommend you in, you know, to speak to somebody they know, because they have the inside connections within that organization. So it's just, you know, an opportunity for you to think about how you could network in and get to be known by a company.
Thank you. So the next section, I have 3 rapid fire questions before we get to audience questions. But for this first one, I kind of wanted to extend it to a longer question based on something Kristen mentioned earlier. So I've gotten a lot of people talking about the idea of, you go into Brazen or Zoom or what have you, and you type out your elevator pitch. Is it disrespectful to just have one already done and copied and pasted it where they can see you didn't type it out? That's just one random question, but I would also like to extend this to, is there a structure of elevator pitch that you guys enjoy most? What 3 bullets do you think would be most important to hit in that 30 seconds that you're talking to a recruiter?
The first, yeah, go ahead.
I can start with that real fast. So I would say probably, I mean, I don't think it's bad to type it out, but I think also you want to make sure, you know, it doesn't sound too rehearsed. You want to talk about, you know, the 3 points that I would really focus on is, and just think about them as 3 points when you're coming to different practitioners that you're talking to. But really focusing on what your experience is, you know, what makes you unique, and then also where you feel like you would fit within the firm, or where you want to take your degree and, you know, in the future use it for a future career. So I guess where you've been, where you are now, and where you're going is always a good way to think about it. But just knowing that you can really tailor, you know, maybe have those 3 general points, but how you can tailor it based on the company you're talking to.
Yeah. I don't think, especially in a virtual environment, I don't think it's too bad to copy paste it. I mean, all realistically, like, we're probably copy and pasting our blurb, our first blurb as well. We have hundreds of people we talk to a day. It's like it's fine. I think I mean I wouldn't post like name colon Andrew Merowitz, year colon junior. Like I would make it like sentences, but I don't think it's bad to use the same kind of whatever, same message for everyone. And I think, yeah, I think the important things I want to hear always like, first of all, like, who are you? Name, what year you are you looking for a full-time or internship? And then just one sentence to kind of making yourself unique. Like, a lot of your peers are taking the same classes. And like, why are you interested? Why are you specifically interested in talking to us, or a really cool project you worked on that you want to mention? But then just kind of that gives us a good place to lead into more conversation.
In breaking your elevator pitch up and having it prepared, it does help, especially if you are doing live chats with people and you know that it's all going to be typing. And so having that prepared so that you can easily cut and paste. We did a series of called Lockheed Martin Connections over the course of the first couple of weeks of August. And there were students that were typing, long paragraphs. And that takes up a lot of your time. And you have to remember that when you're doing these chats, it's for a limited amount of time. So having those, questions that that you're going to ask, and then preparing those responses, like if you were standing in front of somebody at a career fair, it's okay for you to do some cut and paste, but don't do what I call stump the recruiter and ask them this question that is, too deep. I mean, I'm not a technical person. My background is recruiting and HR and helping you all get from school into, Lockheed Martin. But Andrew would be much better prepared to answer a question about computer science than I am. So you have to kind of watch some of the questions and know who it is you're speaking to. Is it a technical person or a non-technical person?
Great, thank you. My second question is, and it's pretty controversial for a lot of folks. If I'm a junior or senior with multiple internships, projects, skills, what have you, and I've been involved in a whole bunch of things, must I limit my resume to one page? I know a lot of people are pretty particular. I just want to know.
Yes, your resume should not be more than one page. We hire people with 10 or 12 years of experience, and their resume is one page. Your resume from college should certainly not be more than a page.
And you should think about it as, I mean, a resume is just there to highlight. So, all of these different things that you want to get across are going to come across in an interview or a conversation that you have with the different companies that you're interested in. So just use that to highlight and make you stand out for what makes you unique.
Sweet, thank you. And our last rapid fire question before we get to the audience questions is, as students look to prioritize themselves and highlight certain things, what would you say is your number one factor when talking to a student of like the major things on a resume, if you have one also?
I would say of those things, job experience is one of the things we're looking for. It kind of goes back to the thing I said earlier, people who have shown some level of grit and tenacity, taking advantage of opportunities and making opportunities for themselves. Showing that is very important. And then we look at all of those things. It's an interesting little a combination, but I think that would be something that would help somebody stand out.
And I think we did touch on this as well, is that there's so many different ways that you can get experience. I think just experience in general, whether it be, projects on campus, leadership opportunities, jobs, internships, things of that nature. Experience in general is something that I think will help you stand out. But yeah, again, looking at all those different areas as well.
Yep, I think for us, it's like definitely the experience. It doesn't have to necessarily be an internship, but something outside your coursework. Like all students in computer science take the same courses there for the most part. Like I said, undergrad research or things like that, or graduate research can stand out. But any experience, skills you've built outside of just the core coursework kind of stands out, because a lot of people have the similar GPA, same major, same coursework. So that's something that just stands out, sets you apart from everybody else.
Thank you guys so much. So now we're going to go into our first audience question from Saran. And they said, is it better to show a breadth of experience or a depth of experience in a specific field area of study, especially if we're not sure what exactly we want to do in a specific industry once we hit the workforce?
I think in general, if you're not exactly sure what you want to do, I think breadth is definitely an area you want to start. And that is how you get more exposure to different things that then you can go more in depth. I think seeing someone that has a lot of different experiences or projects or things of that nature definitely, you know, can be very fluid and, you know, do a lot of different things once they join a firm. So I think breadth is always a good place to start, not only for when you're entering a firm, but also, you know, for yourself as well.
And be able to speak to those differences. Why did you try those different things out, and why are you landing where you're, you know, looking to pursue a career with that particular company? So you have to be able to talk about it. Does it appear wishy-washy, or does it make sense when you start to articulate why you went through these different opportunities?
Yeah. Also, you don't have to know exactly what you want. Like, I don't think any of us knew exactly what we were going to be doing the day we graduated college or entered our junior or senior year of college. So if somebody says, oh, you're interested in Amazon, what do you want to do at Amazon? You don't have to be like, oh, this is the exact team and company and product I want to work on, or a team I want to work on. You can just say, hey, like, I'm really interested in some broad area that makes you interested about the company or the field. You don't have to say like, oh, I want to do on this team doing this role and work on this project. It's okay not to have an exact idea in mind. Even what you think you're going to do 3 years from now, you'll probably be doing something different anyway. So it's okay to not have it your whole career path laid out in front of you as you're walking up the career fairs.
Awesome, thank you. Our next question comes from Shivi, and they wrote, for freshmen, is it okay to leave high school clubs and experiences on your resume?
I say, yeah, it's probably okay as a freshman. As you go through sophomore, junior, senior year, that stuff will start to drop off. But I think most of the time for freshmen and even sometimes first semester sophomores, like it's pretty typical. There's some high school like activities clubs that were on your resumes.
Makes sense. This comes from Joseph, and he wrote, as a non-traditional student, I have 5 to 10 years of job experience in other fields. I also commute to school, so I don't have on-campus connections of a typical undergrad. What are your suggestions that you could offer on highlighting the strengths provided by my unique situation?
So because you are a non-traditional, is, you know, the expectation of some of the skill level that you would have in some of the soft skills and the leadership skills are definitely, there's a higher expectation than somebody who might be, you know, your colleague who is considered a traditional candidate. When I'm looking at non-traditionals, those are some of the things that stand out to me is you should have some higher level soft skills.
Yeah, again, I would just highlight like what stands out. It's like whatever from your 5 to 10 years of job experience, even if it's not in the exact same field, there's a lot of like intangibles, so like soft skills, like were mentioned, that you bring to the table. And yeah, so I would just again highlight what about your experience makes you think is beneficial to your kind of what you bring to the table.
This next question, I believe it's for Kristen, but it might be for all. And it's about extracurricular activities and how important they are in the recruiting process. Someone's saying that if they work and go to school and don't have time for extracurriculars, how is that viewed by a recruiter?
Honestly, I mean, I think, you know, in that case, job is your extracurricular activity. I think just using that and saying, you know, putting that experience down and relating the experience you get within that job and relating that to the role that you're applying to. I think that's totally fair. I know there's, you know, whether or not you can get involved in other things may not always be an option. So definitely use that job experience and, you know, even if it's, you know, customer service, how is that relating to a job within, for example, consulting? It's very relevant. So definitely a way that you can tailor it on your resume to make yourself, you know, show the experiences relating to the job you're applying for.
I agree with that, Kristen. There's always a way to link what you've been doing and talk about what you've learned, what you got out of whatever work experience that you might have had, what you liked about it, what you didn't like about it. Those are the kind of things that help you stand out and make your story interesting. It definitely makes you you. So that's what we want to hear about.
This next question from Nabil is, do recruiters shy away from having your coursework on your resume, listing out the courses that you've taken?
I don't think so. I don't think you need to put all of your electives. Like if you're applying for a software engineering job, like you took freshman English and chemistry is probably not going to be super relevant. But I would put your relevant coursework. Like it's really helpful for us to know if you finished data structure and algorithms, if you've done databases course, if you've done app design course, like those types of things. The ones that are relevant to the field, the roles you're applying for, I think I definitely are good to put which ones you're taking, and then which ones you've already taken, and even which ones you're currently enrolled in.
Yeah, I definitely think this is an area with on your resume when you're applying to different companies. You can always tailor what courses you have and include those that make sense to the company that you're applying to.
Thank you. Our next question from Ayush is about how he's more of a people person and values the in-person interview, and just wants to know any tips or tricks for the online interview platforms and phone interviews, Zoom interviews. Is there any, tips you guys have? Does the length of your response matter, or is it more of the material of it?
Yeah, that's a great question. And something like honestly we struggle with too. Even like I prefer to have meetings with my team in person, but we're all on virtual since March, obviously. So I think there's things you can do. Obviously, if it's pre-recorded, you don't get a whole lot of opportunity to chat one-on-one. But if you are in a video conference with somebody, just try to treat it as much of a normal conversation as possible. There's going to be like the awkwardness where you both try to start talking at the same time and those types of things, and people get it. It's part of it. And I think you had another question about length of time of your response. It only really matters if you're expected to get through 3 questions in a 45-minute interview and you only get through 1. At that point, it probably that would probably be like something where we would have expected to get through a little more in that time period. But in general, like if we give you 1 question and you have 45 minutes to finish it and you finish it in 42 versus somebody else in 30, that's not really not something that we look at as much as the quality of the answer for like technical coding interview rounds and things like that.
Thank you. Our next question from Lynn is, companies often have a minimum GPA. If you don't meet that minimum GPA, should you bother applying, or what tips do you have to, navigate away or navigate through the hiring process even though you don't meet the minimum requirement?
I can talk.
The one
Yeah,
thing I'll share with you is nobody wants to talk about it. Is there are I can with Lockheed Martin, our minimum GPA is somewhat going away, but the reality is as a student, that is your primary job, is to focus on your studying. So you have your classes that are gen eds. Did you have problems with the gen eds? Can you separate the gen eds from your curriculum classes? And does that make your GPA look better? But again, is realizing that if a company says you need to have a 3.0, now if you're at a 299, go ahead and apply for it. But if you're at a 2.0 and they want a 3.0, is you're not going to get past that first gateway. So you got to kind of look at it and understand. You can certainly apply, but the reality is if it's not close to the match, you're not going to get that contact and follow-up that you're looking for.
Yeah, I think more and more companies are leaning towards getting away from GPA requirements. It's kind of like an SAT score from high school. There's a lot of weight put on it for you to get that first job, or historically there is, and then after that, nobody cares what your GPA was once you've gotten your first job. So I know we've gotten rid of the requirement because, like some other people mentioned, some people have the situation where they have to work full time to support themselves through college, where other people don't have that extra time requirement, taking up 30+ hours of their week, and it's hard to represent all of that just in a GPA. So I wouldn't hesitate. I wouldn't shy away. I mean, from companies that are more and more companies are moving away from GPA requirements. So hopefully this question goes away in the future. But don't hold yourself too. Don't beat yourself up too bad if your GPA is not exactly what your peers have or your companies have, because everybody's. Some people have changed majors and their GPA was lower in their old major. Now their new major is better. So I would just go ahead and apply. If they do have a hard requirement and you're way below it, it's probably just not. I mean, you probably don't expect a call back, but in most cases, I would apply. You don't have much to lose.
Thank you. This next question is pretty interesting. I like it. It's from Brian, and it's, if your internship was canceled this year, should that be somewhere on your resume that like you had the opportunity, but you lost out on it?
That's an interesting question. I hadn't thought of that. I think it's okay to list it. I mean, it does show that, you know, you went through the process, that you were selected, and it, as you know, to no fault of your own. In some cases, companies just weren't able to go through with those. So I guess my my advice is to go ahead and list it with a notation, of course.
Yeah. Yeah,
incomplete due to COVID, something like that.
It's a weird year to put it on there. So
Right.
hey, I had a 2020 internship. Everything fell apart in spring 2020 and I lost my internship, but here's what I did all summer instead or something. So
Thank you. I see. I like that. That was something I hadn't thought of either. The next question from Claire is, what would you find more valuable or equally as valuable, an internship or a co-op?
I think they're fairly similar. It's just one's like 12 weeks and one's usually a little bit longer, 16 weeks or maybe even a little longer than that. I personally, I wouldn't weight them any differently one than another. A lot of companies don't even offer co-op. So I don't think I personally don't view them very differently.
Makes sense. Thank you. From the next question from Henry is, from a recruiter's perspective, outside of the obvious answers, what are some things that you think students should avoid on a resume, and that they wouldn't think of? And I also want to add to this, what are your thoughts on objectives on resumes and summaries on resumes?
I think objectives can be helpful just to tailor your resume based on like the roles that you're specifically looking for. Just to call out these, you know, this is my background and this is the specific area that I want to pursue. I think that's definitely helpful. But besides that, I think a lot of just having relevant information. But I would say continuously updating your resume is probably important. I know we did talk, it's okay for those freshmen to have having, you know, information from high school, but maybe updating your resume as you get new experiences and taking old experiences out. But I think that's just constantly updating if you can.
If you're using an objective, is make sure that your objective matches for the job that you're applying with the company that you're applying.
Yeah.
I
wouldn't take up more than like one line with an objective. Like it doesn't need
No.
to be a 2-paragraph thing about your hopes and dreams for the rest of your life. So just one line, like I'm trying to obtain a job in a software engineering field working at a large company, summer 2021 or whatever, and leave it at that.
Perfect.
In terms of things to avoid, I know some students struggle with whether or not they put things like their hobbies or their interests on at the very end. I personally think that paints a broader picture of the individual. I think it's nice to see those things at the end. It's not a gotta have, but I think it helps, again, paint the picture and help you stand out, or it might be a memorable thing. You know, if you're a water polo person, that might be, well, gosh, he's the water polo guy. You know, that's the kind of thing that helps sometimes.
Yeah, I like the hobbies and extracurricular too, because it is this thing that sometimes is a thing that I really remember that differentiates two people from each other.
So our next question is from Shivani, and it is, as a recruiter, do you feel a gap year or gap summer is frowned upon? Is there a way you would recommend marketing that to a recruiter on your resume?
I don't think it's frowned upon these days. I think it's more and more common. When we give offers to people, like we let you pick your start date whenever you want. So even if you get the offer in fall of your senior year and you decide you don't want to start until, you don't have to start right in May or June. You can decide I'm starting in November or whatever, anytime that calendar year. Um, I don't, I personally don't think it's frowned upon now. I mean, if there was a years and years of gap, like somebody's probably going to ask you like what was going on for a couple of years. But if you took 6 months or a year off after graduation and you were applying next time around, like I don't think it's I don't think it's certainly not frowned upon, and it probably wouldn't even come up in conversation really.
Our next question from Maria is, how are internships and co-ops going to look like this year, especially with COVID changing the job market? Would you say companies are hiring, or is it going to be much more selective?
I think, especially from like a Deloitte perspective, we moved our internship to virtual. So I think, obviously we don't know what's going to be happening this upcoming summer, but prepared to do hopefully in person, but if not, a virtual internship. So I think a lot of companies are prepared to do so, or thinking about what exactly this summer will look like. But we still, personally, Deloitte is, still having internship positions. So, and I think a lot of companies are still recruiting for future workforce.
Yeah, I can't speak to like all the disciplines of engineering, obviously, but for software engineering, like still hiring as normal, and we're obviously hoping next summer will be in person. But we hosted all our interns this summer virtually, and we'll do so again if we need to next time around.
That's the same for us.
Same here.
Awesome, that's good to hear. As a recruiter, and I lost a question from Nathan, as a recruiter, would you rather look for a student who continued their education into a master's or PhD, or someone who went out into the workforce?
I think it's just dependent. I mean, really either is fine. It's dependent what you're passionate about. So whether or not you went directly into workforce, I think sometimes depending on like the roles that you're going for, some require a master's, some do not, some require, certain other skills. So just making sure when you apply to positions online, you're seeing what those basic qualifications are. And if you're interested in those roles, maybe, tailoring your education to that. But generally, there's benefits of doing both of those options.
Yeah, we kind of similar answer. We evaluate that similar for an entry level role. Like we don't consider undergrad different than masters. PhD, maybe if you have a specialization, like a very special skill that you're kind of looking for, like machine learning or artificial intelligence. But in general, like for most entry level roles, it's kind of like an even playing field, regardless of like which level of education you went to.
I like this next question, and it is, what would you say you look back to from your experiences in college that have helped you ease the transition from college to work?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I think, honestly, when I look at like my college experience, I think, getting the experiences where I'm working with people, whether it be projects or a job that you currently have on campus, but also organizations. I think there's a lot of different ways to work with a group of people. The more you work with different groups on campus and have experience and leadership opportunities, I think those are the things that really helped me gain purpose and figure out what my passions are. And then moving forward, even opened up doors on, some of the organizations I was involved in on campus had connections to different companies. So they would even have companies come back and speak to us. And that's definitely helped ease the transition, because I knew by what they talked about, what companies I was interested in, the work I was interested in doing. So I think just getting involved in groups or jobs or wherever you can, I think really helps. And Virginia Tech luckily has a lot of different opportunities. So.
Yeah, I would echo that. I think it's like your classroom experience is going to be helpful, and Virginia Tech prepares you very well to go into the job market. But things like during group projects, like I know group projects can have a wide range of experiences in college, but the working with other people, kind of like you're going to have times during your like in the job field, like group projects are, your group you'll work with will be a little different than group projects in college. Like everybody's there, they're trying to stay employed and they're trying to do a good job. So it's a little different. But the same token, there's going to be people who naturally step up and take the lead in projects. There's going to be people who have different skill sets, and people need to navigate other people's strengths and weaknesses to kind of like form like a good team around it. So those types of, whether it's course projects or extracurricular or student groups, whatever it is, just kind of acknowledging that there's going to be times you have to work with other people, and some you'll get along with great, some you are going to like bump heads a little bit, and how do you work past that will pay dividends for literally the rest of your career. It's not something that's going away.
Absolutely. Take advantage of some of those group projects and step up where you're uncomfortable in taking the lead, because then those types of things where you have the opportunity to do it in an environment where there's less judgment, it then helps prepare you for when you get into the work world that, you know, as Andrew says, is you're not going to get along with everybody that you work with. You will, because that's part of your work environment, but how do you manage people also in those environments, especially when you're working with a group and somebody's not doing the work that you need to do for the group to be successful. It's not always your job to do somebody else's job, so.
Perfect. Our next question is from Chester, and he asked, is being a veteran and having skills from training something that should be on your resume, or should you stick to more of your college and technical experiences?
Definitely put it on your resume.
Yes.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, a lot of companies nowadays have special programs actually to help try and hire veterans looking to come back into the workforce and things. So definitely don't keep that a secret. It's great. Definitely.
Great experience, right?
Yes. In fact, at Lockheed, one out of every 5 employees is a veteran. Or I'm not 5, I mean 10, sorry.
That's great.
So fun.
Our next question from Emily is about some of the things that we were talking about earlier on about having short and concise statements on your resume that you elaborate on later on in the hiring process. If you look to apply online, would it make sense to have an extended resume where you explain more things, or would you still be able to be down selected even with short and concise things on your resume?
Yeah, I don't think, I guess like expanding on what we were talking about earlier, it's not that you should leave things off. It's just that if you had an internship last summer, like 3 bullet points should be able to summarize like what you did and what your contribution to the project was. It's like set a little context, like what the company you're working is, what the project you were working on, and then talk about your contribution, not like what the project was as a whole, because a lot of times it's not just you're not the only one working on it. So highlight your contribution. And then maybe a little bit about like if for engineering, for example, or for computer science, like what skills did you use? Was it that we're using Python and React.js, or we're using different databases or AWS technologies, whatever it might be. You just don't need a paragraph, because it takes a lot longer to read a paragraph and pull out the important details than 2 or 3 bullet points and just to highlight the important details. So it's not that you should be leaving things off. It's just concisely highlight the relevant parts that highlighted what you did and what you gained out of it, not just the larger picture of what the company or project or team you're on was doing.
Think of your resume as your calling card, not your life story.
Our next question from Jessica is about how she studied abroad this past spring semester and had to return home to complete her courses online. Even though she was not technically studying abroad because of COVID, is that something that should be added to her resume?
I think it's good to, you know, you can definitely add that you are part of a study abroad program, even if you had to come back early. I think that's definitely a cool conversation topic. And I know Tech has really a lot of great programs, so definitely something that you can add just to say that you are part of the program, and you know, you can always explain why it might have been cut short.
Perfect, perfect. Our next question is from Somya, and it's about being an international student in the recruitment process. And there are definitely challenges and differences in how an international student may apply to a job and talk with recruiters at a career fair. Would you have any tips or tricks to you know, help out with people who feel challenges in that regard?
I encourage international students to try to target companies that they know are hiring international students. It's, that is going to be a little bit narrower field. And so do your research ahead of time so that it's not, a waste of your time if you're in queues to see an employer either virtually or otherwise. If it's in person, it's important that you do that research ahead of time, and it helps the companies that you're targeting as well, that you've done that.
Yeah.
I'll also add on that, especially when there's different companies online, that when you're using Handshake, if there's companies you're interested, see if they have postings, and double checking what those basic qualifications are for the positions that are online is always a good place to start, to see whether or not you're going to have to require security clearance at some point or have one to start the position. But that's definitely a good thing to check.
Yeah. And these companies don't keep these things a secret. Like, go to their job listing online. It'll be listed out, like if they'll sponsor international students, if you need a security clearance, all these different things. It's gonna, and if this company says they'll sponsor international students, then it's not. You should definitely go talk to them, and they'll take care of that side of it for you.
Thank you. Our next question I like a lot is about rotational programs within companies and how you could apply for them out of college, and what are sort of the benefits of them.
We offer that opportunity, and it just is not, a lot of times you're not sure exactly what area you might want to really commit to, and so rotational programs just allow you to go experience certain periods of time, and obviously they vary, but certain periods of time in various departments or areas of the company. So it's just, I look at it as you get to try a lot of t-shirts on, and you get to experience what it's really like to be a day in the life of, or a week in the life of different kind of specialty areas. So it's a fantastic opportunity, especially for students who and new hires that are supposed to be, trying to explore early part of your career, to just try some different opportunities.
So at Lockheed, we have a variety of rotational programs, or LDP programs. Only one of them takes students right from college. The majority of the ones that we offer, we do require that you work for us and have a recommendation in order to get into that program after at least 1 year. But if you are currently an industrial engineer studying and are interested in that type of a program, we do have an opportunity that is currently posted online. What you also have to realize is sometimes with those programs is you have to follow the structure. So ours is a 3-year program, and you have to be willing to move basically anywhere in the US. When your year is done and we say you're going to Owego, New York, your year is done in this location, and you do have to go to Owego, New York. And if you don't, then unfortunately, you don't get to continue your employment. So they are great opportunities to try out different t-shirts, as Jess said. But again, understand what some of the hurdles might be too.
Thank you all so much for those very insightful answers. I'm going to pass it back over to Ryan since we are running out of time. Thank you, guys.
Okay, thank you, Tony, and thank you to all of our panelists for joining us this evening and staying up late, depending on your time zone, to answer all the questions our students had. I know we couldn't get to all of them, but we got to a lot of varied topics that hopefully will help you all prepare for Expo. So before we let you go, if each of our panelists wants to go around and just say anything that they didn't get in or final thoughts, I guess we'll go around in order. So Janet.
Very good. Well, thank you again for inviting me. It was a pleasure to be here. If case you have not seen, I've asked Ryan to send out a reminder, because I am doing a Lockheed Martin Day next Thursday on September the 10th. Also hosting a workshop tomorrow, and I would invite any of you to join. And also realizing that as a part of the information Ryan is going to send out, there are some job recs, and we are already reviewing resumes. So good luck to you in your class studies this semester, and I look forward to getting back to Blacksburg soon.
Yeah.
Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, definitely. Best of luck. It's a crazy semester, so don't. Everyone has a lot going on. Don't beat yourself up if you're going through days where you don't feel like you want to do anything. We go through. Everybody's going through them. Do your best, and don't. And it'll all get better, and we'll turn the corner. And we'll be back in Blacksburg soon. But yeah, just push through. It's a tough semester, but we're all in it together, and we'll work through it to make sure that you guys are all able to get as normal of a semester as we can from a recruiting perspective.
Jess?
Yes, just want to encourage all of you to try to stay as positive as possible. Like everyone's mentioned, it's a very challenging time, and so taking care of your own well-being from both a physical and a mental, emotional points of view. Just take care of yourself. Try to stay positive, and maybe weave in a little gratitude. That usually goes a long way.
All right, fantastic. And Kristen?
So thank you all for having me. Definitely excited for the virtual semester, and I know echo that everything everyone has already said, but we'll be at Engineering Expo. We have all of our positions and opportunities on Handshake, so use it and go Hokies.
Yeah, fantastic. So on that note, thank you again. As Janet mentioned, I have materials that I'll be sending out to everyone tomorrow about future events, and to all the other panelists, if you have things that you'd like me to distribute to everyone as well, I'd be more than happy to do that if you send it over. I'd encourage you to look all of these great panelists up on LinkedIn or other avenues and reach out to them if you have further questions. And thank you everyone again. I hope I'll see you all around campus once things are back to normal a little bit more.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Go Hokies.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you,
Yep,
Tony.
go Hokies.
Bye-bye.
Bye.